Hello, film fans. Welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. My name is Martin Harries, your host, and I'm joined by the film encyclopedia man, Boaz Dix. We are a couple of filmmakers, on occasion, but mainly can't stop yapping about movies. On this podcast, every fortnight we pick a film topic. Myself and Boaz pick our favourite film from that topic, and we battle it out in 3 categories, directing, acting, and screenplay, and we score them out of 10 to decide which film will become the greatest film of all time, according to 2 film geeks from Wiltshire, England. Enjoy! Hello and welcome to the Film vs. Film podcast. This week we're talking black cinema as Regina King's One Night in Miami comes out on Amazon Prime. We're going to have a look at black cinema. As ever, I'm joined by Boaz Dix, the encyclopedia man. How are you, sir?
I'm very fine.
My pick this week is Jordan Peele's masterpiece, in my opinion, Get Out, from 2017. Directing,
screenplay, then acting, just in the way you've said it.
Okay.
I don't have much of an imagination. Whatever you're suggesting, I'll just go with.
Any shots you liked, or directorial sequences?
Directing shots. Should I go just like by my absolute favourite shot, and then we'll go from there?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, it sounds a bit backwards, but it was in a lot of the things online and promotional stuff. And, you know, when you see it, it's visually quite stunning. So I'm glad they kind of, publicized it a lot. But when he kind of falls into the sunken place.
Oh, really?
That is amazing. Yeah. I absolutely love that shot of him basically like falling down into his chair and then like he's falling down an abyss.
It's like he's in space.
Yeah, it's like he's in space. It just looks incredible. And it's so like unexpected. There's no like...
Yeah,
and you the window know that could happen.
Yeah, the window just gets smaller and smaller as you come. And he looks, and Daniel Kaluuya is amazing in that because he looks so terrified. And just like, oh my god, what the hell is happening?
Like what's going on? Yeah, yeah. Some other really good shots when he takes a photo of that guy and he just switches. That's more of a shot and acting. But that was pretty amazing, and how like the music sort of builds to a sort of very scary like, it kind of complements that scene where he's like telling him to get the hell out, get out of here.
That's one of the one of the turning points in the film, I guess. But I think the directing from Jordan Peele is really interesting and really clever. I remember the opening scene where you see Lakeith Stanfield right at the beginning. You know, he's just walking down the street. And then you see a white car, like a white sports car in the background. And the camera like tracks round Stanfield as the car goes round him. So Stanfield is in the foreground and you have the car in the background and it tracks round him. When Stanfield notices that the car is following him, he like turns around. He's like, no, no thanks. This looks dodgy. So when he walks off, the camera doesn't change angle. So it cuts off the white car. So you don't know what the white car is doing. And then when the camera turns back around to see the car stops and the doors open. Yeah. And then Stanfield turns, and then suddenly you have a guy with a medieval helmet on, and then he hand over his face, and he's gone. It's just really clever directing, and that's all in one shot.
Yeah, that was a really good one. And like, if you go from, I suppose, a writing perspective, like the fact that it's a white car, it's very symbolic. He likes to put like symbolism into a lot of the tiny things in this film.
Oh yeah,
so a white car hunting him, white people hunting black people. A great bit of symbolism, and I suppose you could even put this in directing because of how it's shot. The deer scene where they come across they come across a what was it? It's a dying deer, a dead deer. You know, his reaction to the deer and the intercuts between him and the deer, like it's sort of they're connected. You get that just from the way the camera is.
And they do come back to that quite often because obviously at the end he kills
the guy with
Dean with the deer's antlers, which is obviously quite ironic.
Yeah. Well, I think actually even adding the deer, so like the whole thing is basically it's foreshadowing the fact that he is getting hunted, or they want him. Yeah. But yeah, so I just find that kind of interesting. Like he basically is the deer that's getting set up to dine with wolves, basically. But he's a strong deer. At the end, he uses that symbolic deer to kill someone.
To ram Dean right through the stomach.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, there's quite a lot of cool things. I'm trying to think in particular with direction. Oh, I love
even before the deer gets hit, like the actual jump scare when you see the deer, I was like, whoa! I completely forgot that jump scare comes. I was like, shit. They're like deep in conversation, and it just comes out of nowhere. It's really well done.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, there's just quite a lot of like really good things. I do like the It just seems really strange because something's not right almost immediately. There's something not right with the family. There's a bigger conspiracy going on. When we get the scripts, the twist I think is actually really good because it isn't exactly what you expect that they want.
No, definitely not.
In fact, like thematically, it's almost like the opposite of what what intention you think they have. Do you know what I mean? Which is really good. But I like how they're all kind of happy with him and go lucky and all smiling. And then there was that scene where basically they have the party with all the people in there. All the rich people asking him questions about how is it like to be black and all this.
It's like Rose is like showcasing Chris around everyone. It's like, here he is, but we're not going to tell you why I'm doing this.
Yeah, no, that was really good.
He's a strong guy, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's a lot of things like that. Or how with the music and the intensity of like the camera and stuff, when he's wandering around at night and the granddad runs, it looks like he's running to him. Well, it's spoiler that it's the granddad, but that
freaked me out a bit.
Yeah, that freaked me out. That freaked me out as well. It's just interesting uses of that. He's running like straight towards him, and just like the look on his face, as the camera goes to him, and you're like, "Holy shit!" He's running straight at him, and then he just goes straight past him.
Yeah.
And it's like the music as well sort of builds any kind of point of tension like that. It's like suspense, and it turns out it was nothing. Nothing to worry about.
But then straight after that, he turns to the house, and then the light comes on. Well, he sees Gabrielle, I think which obviously is their grandmother. In the window, and she's just got this weird stare on, looking at him.
Yeah.
And then she just turns the light. A light comes on, and then she kind of snaps out of it immediately.
Yeah. It's just at this point you think he should have just left.
Well,
this always happens in horror films. It's like, take a hint, man. Get the hell.
I think he still feels safe at that point with Rose.
Yeah,
because Rose is definitely still on his side.
Yeah,
from the audience's point of view.
Like, she's so nice, and I think she keeps suggesting that they can leave, and so he's like, no.
Yeah,
it's
reverse psychology.
It is reverse psychology. Yeah, the bitch is twisted.
One scene I quite like, and there's a really interesting shot where Bradley Whitford, who plays Dean, is giving Chris a tour of the house, and there's a shot of he shows them the room where Missy does her therapy sessions, and Chris and Dean both move out of the shot, and the camera just lingers on the chair like slightly too much for a natural edited film.
Yeah,
and it just shows you like, shit's going to go down in this room and in this chair specifically.
Yeah.
I love that.
This is a very important chair. It's like the Chekhov gun of furniture. It's going to be you.
Yeah. But certainly watching it the second time, like that house tour is just so brilliantly written. We'll get to that in screenplay. Yeah. There's literally every line it's got such double, triple meanings to it.
Yeah. He definitely likes his foreshadowing and like, I do like that. It makes things much more rewatchable. Yeah. So you feel a lot cleverer when you're like,
Again, the dinner table scene when Catherine Keener leaves the room, as the door opens, as she leaves to get a dessert, you see Georgina like with her head down, eyes straight to camera, looking creepy as fuck. with a cake, holding a cake, dead still, and you just see it for like a split second. Do you remember that?
Yeah. She's really creepy. Do you remember that bit where I suppose this would go under acting, but I'll mention it as well. He was talking to like Georgina, and then and how she just kind of looks at him like dead pan. Is like no.
Oh yeah.
That was really freaky. Yeah. She's quite scary. Actually, I would say she's probably like the scariest thing in the film. She needs to be in more films as a sort of antagonist. She is a pretty strange acting woman.
Strange acting woman.
I think that's a compliment. I don't know. I don't know if that's a compliment. Woman, you look strange.
The sound effects are really kind of interesting in this as well. Like during the therapy session, that first therapy session where Chris goes under into the sunken place.
Yeah.
The sound of the teaspoon scraping the cup is like quite loud throughout the hypnosis scene.
Yeah.
And right from the start of that, it's literally the volume of that is on the same, volume as the dialogue. And it becomes like really irritating in like a good way. For the story, it was just like, oh god, I can't like get this teaspoon scraping out of my head as well as Chris.
Yeah,
because you're trying to concentrate on the dialogue, but you can't help but have the scraping teaspoon in the background as well. Just adds to that the atmosphere and the creepiness of the film.
Yeah, it's just it's quite a sort of creepy atmosphere. I think the first thing that goes through your head is obviously, oh, they probably want to use him as a slave. I think that's even what his friend says. Like, they're making sex slaves. You're going to make you a sex slave.
Yeah. Rod is fucking amazing.
Rod is amazing. He's a great character.
So funny.
Yeah. TSA. Yeah.
We get shit done, man.
We get shit done. Yeah. Yeah, he's amazing. He should have brought him with him. If he had brought him along,
they would have.
But
it would be weird. You don't. Yeah. That's not.
Don't bring
really
your loud friend.
No, when you're trying to meet your girlfriend's family.
Exactly. You
I got Rod. He swears a lot.
He does, yeah.
It's like, can he leave, please? Yeah, go.
He's basically the fat Samuel Jackson of the film.
Yeah, I guess
amazing.
So.
Yeah.
There's some really great gory bits as well. Because I get really pissed off when people call Get Out like, oh, it's a psychological thriller. I'm like, no, it's a horror film. A guy cuts another guy's skull off. It's a horror film.
Yeah.
So I really like that.
Yeah. Well, where he cuts his...
Just to remind you that it's a fucking horror film, people.
Yeah. I would say there is definitely horror and gore in it, particularly towards the end. But I wouldn't call it like... I don't know, like the most disturbing horror film or anywhere near that.
No, but you would certainly describe it. I mean, Jordan Peele would say it is a horror film.
Yeah,
but I guess you would describe it as a psychological horror.
Yeah, with actual horror towards the end. Yeah,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
and one last thing for directing. The juxtaposition of Chris beating Missy and Jeremy to a pulp at the end isn't necessarily the most scariest thing, but then you get straight after that you have Rose eating cereal in separate glasses. So you have the cereal in one glass and milk in the other, and it's just what the fuck is. And she's calm as anything,
exactly,
and she's all dressed in white.
When you see that scene, you truly know she is the face of evil. What lunatic would eat cereal separately?
Yeah, have milk and cereal in separate glasses. I'm like, woo, that's weird. That shit's fucked up.
What was it? I think I think there's like symbolism even in that thing of her basically having it's like two containers, a black one and a white one. Milk being white. No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
And like combining them in a sort of synergy, but not in the same.
I think I get what you're saying.
You get what I'm saying? I'm trying to be clever. I'm not sure if I'm succeeded there.
But no, I guess it could be read in that way.
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of things in this film are symbolic. I think that's a good thing in a sense. I think sometimes though it can be a bit, I don't know, it's a bit maybe too much. You don't need to like spell it out too much. What's going on, but definitely I think helps with like rewatchability.
I just adore films when the first experience is completely different to the second, and the second experience is just as enjoyable, but in a completely different way for Get Out.
Because you're picking up on different things.
My favorite shot is where the camera like slowly pulls back to reveal Chris is the one up for auction.
Yeah.
It's just a really simple pulling out shot to reveal the picture. That's the moment where you get the real like tonal shift, the story shift that, oh, Chris is in trouble.
Yeah.
For directing, I'll go first for this one. I think this is like really, really well directed. I think I would give it a 9.1 for me.
Okay, that's pretty good. I probably won't go that high. Maybe like
No.
8.4, maybe. Still like super solid, but I don't think I would hit a 9. Yeah, I think it was definitely very good. Yeah, it was really, really good. Very enjoyable. And what was it? I actually watched this after I watched.
Don't say yours yet.
Huh?
Don't say your film yet.
No. I'm talking about Jordan Peele films.
Oh right, yeah. Okay.
So we watched. What was the one? Us.
Us, yeah.
Yeah, we watched that second. So I'm kind of, I guess, glad that I watched Us and then this, because I consider this much, much better. It's kind of disappointing.
I still like Us. I think.
I know you quite liked it. I think we have like vastly different opinions on it. Like, I think if we did a review of Us, then we would be very polarized.
All right.
Yeah. But anyway, carry on.
Yeah, Us is awesome.
Right. You are wrong. Fight me. Come over there. Come over here. Come out of the screen. Anyway.
Right, screenplay then. I think this is the strongest part of the film, the screenplay. I think it's just an absolute marvelous piece of work. And I was so pleased that Jordan Peele won the Oscar for this film, because obviously at the Oscars, horror films very, very, very rarely get any recognition from the Oscars. I think the only real horror film before Get Out that won an award was Silence of the Lambs, and that was in 91.
Yeah.
So it's a far too long.
When you go actually on the story, the great thing I like about it is the fact that it isn't exactly how you think it's going to be. And I think that's its main point. Because basically, Chris, he struggles with racial profiling and all this other stuff, like with that cop at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
And you kind of do see this going as, maybe his family's going to kill him, or maybe they're going to enslave him or whatever. And then the truth is like so completely left field, and it's so like much different. It's not so much that they hate blacks. It's almost the opposite. It's like, it's more, there's a problem with idolizing them too much, or idolizing anybody too much, that you kind of want to be them. So it's almost like...
because one character says like, "Oh, black is in fashion."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's more that it's like a hot commodity, hot product, rather than
Hey everybody, it's Mark Summers. You might remember me from Nickelodeon's Double Dare, or remember the time Burt Reynolds and I got into a little tiff on The Tonight Show.
And you'll treasure it later. Don't touch me.
Over the decades in showbiz, I've met some pretty interesting people in the world. Now, on this show, I'm going to talk to some of them and find out what makes them tick. Some of the guests on our first season include my friends Anthony Ramos.
You auditioned for In the Heights, and that one didn't go so well either.
Didn't go so well. It's different from bombing.
Al Roker.
My agent called and said, the producers of Waitress are wondering if you'd be interested in playing Old Joe. Ouch.
And many more.
Tune in for the first episode of Mark Summers Unwraps.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because Stephen Root, who plays Jim Hudson, the blind guy, it's really interesting, his character, because I guess his character for me kind of represents like this unconscious racism that he gives Chris during the auction. He goes through all these characters, as I said, like Rose showcasing Chris, and then he meets Jim Hudson, the blind guy, and he kind of relates to him a lot. But then when he gets into the chair, when he's captured, and just before he's about to go under again, he meets him on the TV screen, and Chris asks him, "Why black people?" And then Jim says, "I don't give a shit what color you are. I just want your eye, man. I want those things you see through." And I just find that really interesting, and it kind of stuck with me a bit. I'm like, but you kind of do care the fact that he is black, because I don't think you would want his eye if he was a white dude, because a white dude would never be in that situation. he's in this universe.
Well, I kind of see.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I sort of see what you mean, but I kind of see the character as sort of like not really. I would take him maybe at face value. Like, if there were white people being harvested for their bodies, he probably would sign up. But nobody's doing that because,
Well, yeah, that's the whole point the film is making, is that, white people in this film, and to a certain extent, which I guess we'll get onto with your pick, is that white people kind of idolize black people in a good way because they want to be them for their qualities. But do they actually want to be black? No.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point.
So I think there is some unconscious racism there that Jim's character represents. Getting very deep now already. But they kind of use this device of racism in a very interesting way with the cop scene when the cop pulls them over. Because obviously the officer asks Chris for the ID, even though he wasn't driving. And Rose is the one that's really defending him. And it's like, no, this isn't right. And it's just a really big misdirect from the filmmaker's point of view.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, even from a script point of view, it kind of makes the most sense that, you see where she's coming from because you think she's on our side of this cop is clearly racist.
It's so clever.
But you'd see she wouldn't want anybody to know, especially the police, that he's anywhere near this area.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It would fuck with their plan of stealing his body.
Yeah.
So it kind of is another reason why she would make a big fuss. You think, oh, she's making a big fuss because she's nice. It's like, no, she's pure evil. Yeah. And I also like her turn when he's like, get the keys, we're getting the hell out of here. Your parents are nuts. She seems to be completely trying to find the keys and helping him out and defend him against the family. And it's like, no, I'm in on this. You're not going anywhere. It's like, oh,
yeah, it's a great reveal.
Yeah, that is a great reveal. Yeah.
Because it's interesting, that scene, because right before that, Chris finds all the pictures of all Rose's black ex-boyfriends. And at that point, we know Rose is dodgy, but we don't know why exactly. We just know that, oh shit, something is not good here at all. But we don't 100% know why. But then when they both come down the stairs, and then Chris is getting really agitated, Rose, where's those keys? Keys, Rose. And then she's frantically trying to get the keys. And Jeremy tries to hit him and he kind of backs off. But then Rose says, no, stop. What are you doing to Jeremy? And at that point, you're like, oh, hang on. The audience is kind of like, oh, maybe Rose is all right. But then literally a few beats later, it's like, sorry, babe, I know I can't give you the keys. And you're like, oh, shit, Jordan Peele has Kaiser Soze this shit. Which he said himself.
Yeah.
Jordan Peele was like, yeah, I'm Kaiser Soze-ing this shit up. He says that on the DVD extras.
Kaiser Sozerina? I don't know. Female Kaiser Soze. So I do like the character of Chris. I think he's actually quite smart. He's a very intelligent protagonist. Yeah. Definitely an active protagonist, which I kind of prefer in films, especially if I'm watching sort of, if you watch a horror or thriller. And I think some writers, they never get it right, where the main character feels very passive. Just stuff happens to them, and then they react, or they're told what to do.
Yeah, it's all reactionary.
Yeah.
Well, that was actually one of the reasons why Jordan Peele made this film, because he hated watching films where, as you said, a character just does dumb things, and he's just screaming at the telly, just get out, get out, get out of the house, get out of the place. Yeah. And he's like, oh, let's make a film where it's impossible to get out as well.
So another film I actually watched where it was a horror film, and I really liked the protagonist. And it's, again, this thing of sometimes you watch a protagonist and they're just so stupid. You're like, it could literally be anybody. And they're not seeing the very obvious signs. To me, it shows that it's kind of I suppose, lazily written, It's kind of, you don't want to put too much thought in it. You've put too much thought in the horror chase-like aspect of it, and the monster and the scares, but not in people actually having any sort of common sense. And so the good guy is basically just very, very lucky. So with Chris, a lot of the really clever things he does is not only his own investigations on exactly what's going on. So he's curious, he's trying to work it out, and he does work it out. But even how he kind of beats everybody. The fact that he because I think I saw this on a commentary with Jordan Peele, where he was picking into his chair, to cover
right.
his ears so
Yeah,
he wouldn't be hypnotized and be sedated. And then also it goes to the symbolism of the film about like racism and what have you. The fact that he's picking cotton to stay alive, you know.
Oh
You ever think
yeah,
about that?
I never saw that.
Yeah, exactly. I think
Yeah.
that's really, really clever. So it's stuff like that in the script. You're like,
Yeah,
oh wow,
fucking hell.
he picks cotton to stay alive,
That's
even though
amazing.
that's like associated with the loss of black freedom for hundreds of years.
Bloody hell.
But it actually gives him his freedom, you know.
Yeah, that's
So
really,
he's
really clever.
he's quite a clever character, you know.
Yeah,
And even like how he beats that martial artist
Jeremy.
Jeremy, yeah, I really like that because they even talked verbally about the martial arts that they knew, and he's very like full on and quite insecure. Yeah, I reckon.
Was it Aikido or something?
Yeah, something like that.
I remember.
He's like he reckons he can beat him, and then I love their fight because it's like Jeremy is going to kill him. He's like choking him out. And he keeps reaching for the door and he keeps closing it. And I love it. He reaches for it because he knows he's going to get his leg out to close it again, then stabs him in the leg, you know?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
So I do like that the hero is actually quite clever. And then also like how he gets the granddad. He flashes his, was it his phone or his camera at him?
His camera phone, yeah.
His camera phone, yeah.
And then...
Because he already knows that flashing... the camera like gets them out of that state, you know.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised in the story, like because obviously Walter and Georgina have been in these black bodies for like so long. Because obviously, when that happens, he stays in character. You know, well, you know, he still pretends to be Walter. You know, right at the end, before she shoots Rose. So I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah,
obviously, that kind of needed to be done to serve the story, but it certainly was believable in that moment.
Yeah. Did you see the bit where, like, he's well, obviously you saw it, you know, because we're talking about it. Can't believe I said something so stupid. Yeah. Did you see this film that we're reviewing? Yeah. You've already said so much about. But you know the bit at the end where it was like he's choking her out, and then the cop car comes, and he's like, "Oh yeah, this does not look good at all." You know, I think he's gonna
because they shot an alternative ending. Did you know this?
No, I didn't.
Where Chris, they actually were cops and they arrested Chris.
Oh,
and you can see it on YouTube.
Yeah, I'll definitely look that up. Yeah.
And Chris is talking to Rob, you know, behind glass, and he's in an orange jumpsuit. I guess for that scene, they were going for like the whole reality of the situation, but I think they didn't want to go for such a downer ending, like a lot, which is fairly common, I guess.
Yeah.
But I want to go through like the tour, the house tour with all the lines that Dean goes through because it's just so great. Dean is talking about how like Jeremy wants to be like his dad, and yet we know that as in his grandfather. And then there's like a throwaway line where he says, "You'll meet him," you know, which is great. And then and obviously his grandfather is in Walter. And then he says, "It's such a privilege to experience someone else's culture." Do you know what I'm saying? And then you have the story of Dean's grandfather losing to Jesse Owens at the Olympics. And then he says, "Oh, he almost got over it." After that, he has like a real a subtle wry smile on his face because obviously Jesse Owens was the only black guy that won a race at the Olympics in 1933.
Yeah,
the one that like Hitler was at.
Yeah.
And then as they walk past the basement, he says, "Oh, that's the basement. We keep it sealed up because there's lots of black mold down there." You know, it's like real like subtle racism because obviously down there is where they do the surgery, where they sort the brains out.
Yeah, where they put the white brains into black molds.
Yeah, it's true. It's just like fuck it.
Yeah, I mean that really is a quite clever. It's a really clever line.
I mean, just the fact that they have the audacity to write these lines, and then when he gets to the kitchen, he says, "Oh," and Georgina is like on the other side of the kitchen, and Dean says, "Oh, my mother loved her kitchen so much. We keep a piece of her in here," and we see a wide shot of Georgina, who is obviously, in fact, Dean's mother. Oh, do you remember that great little moment where, like, during the auction scene, because he's trying to charge his phone and Georgina keeps taking the cable out of his phone. So he goes upstairs and, like, everyone just pauses and just hears what he's doing up there.
Yeah, I think so.
Like everyone freezes. Yeah, that's kind of...
Yeah, it's quite strange. Well, you know then that their focus is on him. They're just pretending to have conversation so he doesn't get suspicious.
One of my favourite characters, as we've mentioned him a little bit, is Rod.
Yeah, Rod is great.
He has some really
Yeah, in Rod we trust.
great lines. You know, the obvious one. Sex slave!
Yeah.
They're sex slaves!
Yeah.
He says, you know, I know that TA shit tingles. This motherfucker's flying.
It's like he's in the
I
room with
think
us
what
right now. That's a tremendous impression.
Yes, of course. I think my favourite line is like, "Oh shit, she's a genius." You know, after they have that conversation, Rod talks to Rose.
Yeah,
you know,
she's
and
always
then, like Rose, like freaks
yeah,
him
she's
out.
always putting it back on him. It's like, I know you want me. You're just being creepy and stuff. And he's like, what the hell?
Oh shit, she's a genius.
Like, she's made me look like the villain.
Yeah,
How'd she do that?
yeah. His great line to like close the film is so brilliant. Just a great moment of levity after such tension at the end when Chris gets into his car and he says, "TS motherfucking A. We handle shit. It's what we do. Consider this situation fucking handled." And then they drive off and end film.
He handled that baggage. Yeah.
So my favourite line is definitely, "Oh shit, she's a genius." Because he says she's a genius quick. It's
no,
brilliant.
that's good. Maybe actually, the guy saying like, I want your eye, man, and all that stuff. Well, that was pretty cool.
What would you score it?
I'd probably score it actually a lot higher, because of the screenplay, because the ideas are so good and the dialogue is really, really interesting and stuff. So maybe like a 9.
I think the script is extraordinary. As I said, I was so pleased when Jordan Peele won the Oscar for this, and it's so subtle. There's literally double meanings in nearly every line, especially from Dean's character. It's just a brilliant piece of work. I'm going to go 9.6,
cool.
I think. Moving on to acting then. I think there's some unbelievable performances in this.
Yeah, no, acting's pretty solid, especially from Chris. I think he's
Daniel Kaluuya.
He's really good. He can basically portray all the emotions. He does from, happy, content, a bit nervous to angry, sad, scared. He's very, very believable.
There's a point where I noticed on a rewatch where you kind of know, they kind of tell you that Rose is a fucking nutter from the start.
Yeah.
Is when like Rose is carrying like food and a drink and like she knocks on Chris's door, but she uses her head. Like, what normal person does that? Normally you just put at least either the cup down on the floor or the food on the floor and just use
You don't use your head? You don't use your head? You're a weirdo.
No.
I always headbutt the door, That's what the head is for, man.
So I just thought, that was just like, huh? Who does that, man? Yep, she's weird. I'm turning this shit off.
God didn't want us to knock our head on doors. He would have given us 3 arms. There we go.
Yeah. What do you think of the acting of Betty Gabriel, who plays Georgina, and Marcus Henderson, who plays Walter?
Like really, really unnerving. Especially her. I think especially her. She is just... Well, there's something wrong with Walter. You're like, there is something wrong with you, man. You act like you're from like the 1850s or something. Like you're a posh, I don't know, like a posh white landowner or something. He just acts really, really different. But Georgina is just creepy as hell. I think even if you said this film had nothing to do with like Switch, so that grandma must have been a freaking lunatic, like when she was alive.
Yeah,
because her performance is super creepy.
Yeah.
It's like,
I feel like
maybe too creepy.
The actual black person and their mother are always kind of constantly fighting each other mentally, like subconsciously, to get those weird performances. Because that's certainly something of the black woman in the performance of the mother, because they say they leave part of the brain still there so they can use the motor functions, but I guess like the hypnosis can only go so far.
Well, you think even like they're smiling and especially Georgina, she can smile and look like she's about to cry at the same time, and it's really unnerving. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah, there's moments like that where you think she's going to snap out of it. you know.
Yeah,
she
no,
doesn't.
props on that actress. I don't think she gets as much recognition. Like, she was truly very, very,
Yeah,
very,
Betty Gabriel.
very great, very creepy.
There's a great moment from Catherine Keener.
Yeah. Oh, have you noticed she's the same actress who was in Being John Malkovich? Have you ever
Yeah,
watched Being
yeah.
John Malkovich?
Uh,
Really?
You
You need to watch
no.
Being John Malkovich. It's
I know.
the most insane film that has ever existed. It's so weird.
Yeah.
And what's strange is that film is to do with basically taking over somebody's brain. Yeah.
Oh, really?
And she's in it. And I think a lot of people said, wouldn't it be amazing if she is the same character? She's just gone from, you know, getting people to possess John Malkovich to actually possessing black people. Like, she's just the same character.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. That'd be some awesome world building there.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, M. Night Shyamalan levels of you know.
there's a great moment where, like, Chris, like, when he's trying to escape in the white car, like, he knocks over Georgina, and he can't help himself, and he goes to kind of save her, pick her up, and puts her in the car. And there's a great moment where Georgina literally slowly turns her head to attack Chris in the car, and you see the scar across her forehead. It's just like, whoa, that's scary as fuck.
Yeah, pretty creepy. Yeah, no, that was cool.
And there's a great bit by Rose as well, Alison Williams, a bit of a newcomer, I think. When, like, Chris is trying to strangle Rose, but then she starts smiling, and it's as if she's saying, "I dare you, go on, kill me."
Yeah. Strike
And then
me
the
down,
cop
and
car
I shall come
comes.
back more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
But
Yeah,
do you
no,
know what I
know.
mean? You know,
Yeah, very
just-
evil. Yeah.
when you think it's the cop car coming, she changes and just like,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
help
Yeah.
me, because she knows she'll certainly get help, and they'll try and take out Chris, but it ends up being
Yeah.
Rod. And you're
Yeah.
like, yay.
Thank Rod. Thank Rod. All praise be to Rod.
So what's your favorite
My favorite performance is literally anything with, I suppose, Chris. Yeah, the main character. Yeah,
Daniel
I think
Kaluuya.
he's truly phenomenal.
Yeah, that's
so
mine.
he would be my up there. Just like almost everything he does, especially like the first time getting hypnotized, where he looks like he is fastened to
yeah.
the chair, and like tears running down his face, and you're like, whoa, this is pretty intense. And it really felt.
Yeah, I wonder how many takes they did.
What?
I do wonder how many takes
Yeah.
they did for that. Like, if he just did it
Yeah.
like that.
Well,
you know?
what was it? I was watching this one acting thing where, you know, this actor is like really red-eyed and what have you, and I heard not for this film but another one, and the behind the scenes was they rubbed some stuff in his eye, so like it just really irritated the
Really?
eyes. So basically, any sort of direct light, just like just it goes red and the tears start streaming. So I don't know if they maybe did that or he just did it 100% acting.
Or just did a COVID test. Have you?
I haven't had a COVID
yet. When you
test
have to stick
My
those-
mum has had plenty.
They are horrible.
I think
Literally, when you stick those things up your nose, like, I just.
Oh
block
my God.
completely. It's just like.
it's an emotional
God.
experience. Oh, and also Georgina. So I would say they are my two top characters, Chris and Georgina. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Like super creepy.
Yeah. Daniel Kaluuya is my favorite performance as well. So, what's your score for acting? Exactly.
Okay, so acting, I might give it. So I don't know, man. Maybe 9.2. You know, I do think the acting is basically what makes the film. You know, so yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, there are some incredible parts. I'll go 9.1, I think. Right, let's go to the score for Get Out. See what that is.
Come on, get out the score.
55.
What
So
did it
Get
take you
Out-
55
Get Out, get 50.
years to fucking work out the answer? Good God, man alive, 55.
So, Boaz, what is your pick and why did
So
you
my
pick it?
pick is "Do the Right Thing" by Spike Lee. I'll be 100% honest with you. When you said, like, let's pick a film by black directors, my mind went completely blank. I was going to say it went completely black, but it didn't
really?
go black. It went, it went blank. So I thought, what's a black director I know the name of, basically? And I was just like, oh, Spike Lee. And then I was wondering, okay, what other films he's made? And so I was like, Klansman, I still haven't watched that. And then I thought, he made Do the Right Thing. I've heard Do the Right Thing is good. So I picked Do the Right Thing. And I watched it, and I can tell you I did the right thing. in picking that film. It's
Yes, you
it's
did indeed.
It's really good, actually. It's very interesting. I'd say it's actually.
Yeah.
I think, to be honest, you could write like several essays on it. It's quite deep, a lot going on.
Oh yeah. Should we go straight into screenplay?
Yeah. Maybe we should just get straight into screenplay
and go with the big question: did Mookie do the right thing in throwing the dustbin into Sal's window? Right?
I don't. Yeah,
after Raheem gets killed by the cops.
So I don't think he did the right thing. No? So I'm not exactly sure what the right thing and do the right thing actually refers to. So,
yeah, exactly.
Those things. So one of the things, I suppose, in my personal opinion, is the fact that Sal, I suppose, did the right thing in actually paying him when he kept promising he would, but never did. And even though he did, all this nonsense happened, he did pay him. And I would say, like, maybe it's a do the right thing in the fact that, he did smash the window, which started a riot, which did, I suppose, it destroyed his business, but saved his life. They were going to kill him.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I'm not sure if that was, like, his intention, if he was that forward-thinking. I think he threw that bin in the window because he was pissed.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. I think part of why Spike Lee chose for Mookie to do that is kind of this grief and anguish and hate. The fact that his friend, was it Boombox Raheem? Like gets killed by
Radio
the cops.
Raheem. Radio Raheem.
But I think for me, what I read in it as well is that he's kind of like destroying Sal's pride. This whole situation came about is because Giancarlo Esposito's character, Bugging Out, wanted a picture of Black legends on his wall, but he was like, no, only Italian Americans are going up there. And it kind of all escalated from there with other things as well. But if he just let, a Black legend, just one picture go on the wall, because they show that when Smiley goes into the Sal's Pizzeria is basically destroyed, he walks in there with a picture of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. and just pins it on the wall.
I thought that was quite
and it's just like all this just because of the picture on the wall.
I'm okay for, I suppose, films like talking with difficult topics like this, and even if they kind of sort of paint it one way, you've got your obvious heroes and your obvious villains. And, with a film about like race and stuff and racism, you'd think it would be kind of, I suppose, very cut and dry. Here are the racists, here are the non-racists, don't be a non-racist. But I think the film is actually quite morally sort of complex, really.
Oh, yeah. There's no, it's all questions. There's no right answers.
It's more so like, just prejudice is really wrong. But a lot of the characters are prejudiced. They're very human. Like, and I would even say Mookie is not like some sort of divine, enlightened man. He's just a regular guy, like all of them. And I think where that kind of really sells it is like in the middle. It just kind of stops its narrative for a bit and just has most of the characters being quite racist. It's like their inner monologue outside. But even Mookie, his inner monologue is like he doesn't like Italians anymore. He goes off on Italians. Sal's son goes off on black people. The cop goes off on Puerto Ricans. The Puerto Rican goes off on Koreans. The Korean goes off on black people. So you could see, and there are just interactions. Like most of the film has got nothing to do with like a central plot. It's almost like a week in the life of, this neighborhood. It's just a hanging out film. But a lot of their interactions in these segments where they're hanging out, it's always to do with some kind of prejudice. And a lot of it is really is a lot less, is quite subtle. Like even stuff of, the guy getting quite pissy that they're not putting a black guy on Sal's wall. And he's like, you're literally in a black neighborhood. Why aren't you representing black people? But in the same time, you can see he has an altercation where a white guy steps on his shoe and he goes absolutely ballistic at this guy, not even just for stepping on his shoe, but for being white. So you think, hang on a minute. You do have a point, but now you seem completely unreasonable. And almost every character does that. They complain about racism or ageism or sexism or whatever, but then they'll be quite prejudiced. You know what I mean? Like even those three black guys, they talk about, how racist like the cops are or whatever, because they don't do anything all day. Yet when one of them starts just going off on one just out of nowhere about the Koreans, so. Yeah, it's interesting
when they, destroy Sal's pizzeria, because they start going off to the Korean shop, but then he kind of says, "No, I'm black, I'm black," and like waving his like broom or whatever. And then they kind of like, "Oh, accept it. Yeah, he's one of us. He's black."
Well, I think it's more of a case of like, I think his friends have to rein him in. It's like listen. But I do think it's quite a complicated film. Like, I don't think any character is like one-dimensionally bad or whatever. They're all kind of, well, they're all people, and they're all like a bit paradoxical.
Yeah. What I was trying to say is the fact that I think only 2 characters go into the Korean shop. The mayor goes in there, and they don't have his beer that he likes anymore. So he's kind of pissed off about that. And then Radio Raheem goes in there to get more batteries, but they can't get him. They can't communicate properly to get him the right batteries. But they're the only 2 characters that go into the Korean shop, whereas literally pretty much every single character and a lot of background extras go into Sal's pizzeria, and yet that's the shop that they destroy.
Yeah. There was going to be a match somewhere, things going to head. Like one, it's like they make a big deal about it being a really, really hot week. It's so hot, you know what I mean? And everybody needs to chill. And, that might be sort of, I don't know, like, the catalyst for just getting a bit, I don't know. It's quite interesting, I think, the screenplay. Because I'm just saying, I think it's more about, like, just not only, it's very easy to say racism is wrong, don't be racist. But a lot of the characters even believe that, oh, yeah, don't be I mean, even Sal doesn't, want to be racist. He even chastises his son for being racist. They have huge conversations where he's like, listen, I like black people. I got black people here. I fed these people, fed their generations and what have you. Like, towards the end, he gets so angry that he starts spouting the N-word music, N-word this, So it can be like, it's not good enough to just say, like, don't be whatever. You've got to sort of check yourself, because it's very easy to slip into some other kind of prejudice or be prejudiced in another way. Like the black guy wanting to burn down the Korean place, or even like Rakim. He's like seen as such a saint and like a martyr figure when he dies. But even you were saying, like, when he goes to the Korean shop, he straight up just looks like he doesn't like Koreans. So it's almost every character has got some beef with some entire group of people.
The relationship is really interesting between Sal and Pino, because there's a scene where, like, Pino is really fed up of living in Harlem, and he admits to Sal that he just hates black people. He's just had enough of it. And Pino asks, can he leave the neighborhood? Let's sell this place and move. Her own town.
Be with other Italians.
We're respected. But Sal's like, no, there's too many pizzerias there. And he says he's really proud of watching these kids, like, grow up on his food. And Sal asks Pino, why is there so much hate in you, As if to say, like, all this hate is just so tiring. It's just, I hate watching you like this. Can't you just respect their culture a bit more? Which is interesting and ironic and hypocritical in a sense from Sal's character, the fact that he won't allow any black people up on his wall.
Well, I think this is kind of like the crux of the film is a lot of characters preach. A lot of characters preach. They'll talk to another one who's being quite prejudiced and say, why are you being like this? Sal is with his son, and many other characters have these kind of things. But in the end of the day, almost everybody, is quite hypocritical. I think it's more of a film, I suppose, about human nature and, just trying to check that kind of hypocrisy. And also learning to live with other people that are kind of different from you. And there's quite a mixed bag in this neighborhood. There's white, black, Hispanic, Asians, even like the guys start up, when you're following that that old drunk guy, who's basically the uncle of the mayor. And like that woman dislikes him because he's a drunk, and he eventually woos her over. And those kids as well, they hate him because he's old and, a drunk, So it's almost like you see prejudice in like every sort of facet, against like every kind of person, So I thought that's quite unique for a film that's dealing not only with black issues, but it's literally trying to nail on the head like, many different issues of like prejudice and stuff.
One scene I quite enjoyed and found really fascinating, I can't remember if we've touched on this already, but when Spike Lee's character Mookie asks Pino when they're in the pizzeria about who's your favorite actor, he says Eddie Murphy. Favorite sports person, I can't remember who it was, but it was a black person. And who's your favorite rock star? Prince. I bet you're a Prince man. He's like, no, Bruce. He won't admit it that it's Prince. You know, and like all his favorite
Black,
people are.
He goes, you're always saying N-word this, N-word that, but all your favorite people are N-words.
But then Spike asks, deep down inside, do you wish you were black? And then Pino laughs. And I just find that such a profound and interesting question and line in the film, you know, because let's face it, black culture is awesome.
You're welcome.
You know, there's a lot of great,
welcome.
like even today, I mean, this film is like, how old is it? 32 years old. And there's so many great black rappers out there now and great black sports people. Any other points about the screenplay?
I think it's like a character study of all kinds of people. It's a character study of you know, of all the characters in that neighborhood. It's one of those things when you talk about its plot doesn't really coalesce into a sort of narrative until really the end. I would say the end is kind of like, oh man, it's a narrative now. You know, and so when you're explaining it, it's an issue about a pizzeria. Like that's not really what it is.
It's all about like the boiling tension between all these.
I would actually say, that's a great a metaphor because, well, not a metaphor. I mean, you're being literal, but it is about boiling tension. I would say there's a sort of poetic metaphor in the environment that things are getting hotter and hotter and hotter in Harlem, and then it boils over. You know, it does seem like everybody's very frustrated with each other, and it boils over into this.
Just going back to the last scene when Mookie chucks the trash can into the window, I recently looked on YouTube and Spike Lee fairly recently said the only people that asked me that question, oh, did Mookie do the right thing about throwing the can into the window? Only white people were asking him that question. Like there was never been a black person that asked him that.
All right,
ever.
I'll phone him up and I'll ask him it.
No, I just find that really interesting. That I guess for black people, maybe it's slightly easier.
No,
I don't know.
Well, as black people,
to get
I don't know. As a black person, I probably wouldn't generalize, but I don't know. Well, I suppose because he was black, you know, and people tend to identify with with people that are like them. I mean, that's a sad fact.
I just found that interesting.
Thinking about did he do the right thing? Yeah, Sal went a bit over the top. People were going, so I don't know, man. It's kind of complicated. But here's the thing: I think the film is deliberately morally complicating, you know, because that's kind of what life is. I think the film is almost a reflection of like the actual truth rather than some idealized version of it.
Yeah.
So if you're saying like, did Mookie do the right thing? I mean, like, depends on your perspective. Depends on exactly why he did it, or you know, would it have been better if he didn't? I don't know. It's quite a quite a difficult thing to think about.
But this screenplay is funny as hell as well. To be fair, there's a great line by Robin Harris where he says, because he's part of the three dudes on the corner up against that red wall. There's one part where he says, "Never too hot, never too cold for fucking Sweet Dick Willie." His character name is Sweet Dick Willie.
Because they were saying, did your mother call you that? Like, what the hell? Why do they call you Sweet Dick Willie? You know? Yeah. No, I was actually going to say that's actually my favorite line in the film. So it's kind of unique that you also picked up on that. That's one of the few lines I actually remembered, like fully on.
Really? What? Never too hot, never too cold for fucking.
Never too cold for fucking. It's words to live by, to be honest with you. Doesn't matter if you're an Eskimo or you live in the desert. Any day is a good day. Yeah, I'm hard right now, man. Just talking about films.
All right, steady on, mate.
I love film that much.
So my favourite line is, deep down inside, did you wish you were black? I just found that quite...
Yeah.
It's really
I like Samuel Jackson when they're all giving it the sort of racial stuff, and he's like, you need to calm that shit down. That was cool. Yeah. I think when Samuel Jackson speaks, everybody listens. You know, that's just the thing in a movie. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think the screenplay is really good because it seems very real. And I think you're right. It's not so... It's quite funny. It's also really, really funny. There's a lot of funny stuff that goes on. Mm-hmm. It's quite heartfelt at bits, you know, like when he goes to his girlfriend's house and he's hanging out with his son and all that stuff. And he, you know, how he talks to his sister, just all this stuff. There's a lot of heartfelt stuff. And I just think it's kind of really well done. It's funny. It's some really good serious and sad bits. You know, it's very real, the dialogue, you know. Yeah, so I don't know, man. I would give it quite a high score because it's just quite interesting. Yeah. It's quite interesting to watch, really. So yeah, maybe like 9.5. It's pretty damn high. Yeah, I'm higher than Mookie on a Friday night.
I think I would go. I'm going to go say 9.5 because it's such a clever film in just such a different way to get out. Because it asks a lot of really difficult questions, and it's really difficult to answer that fundamental question: did Mookie do the right thing?
Definitely.
You know, and people are still debating it to this day. So it's quite extraordinary. So let's do acting, I reckon. I love Samuel L. Jackson in this film. He's so great as the radio DJ.
Yeah, I like him. Just giving a narration on all the main characters that will eventually be quite serious players in this game. It's being like, hey, it's Radio Rakim. Keep that beat going. You know?
Because there's a bit where like there's loads of characters like trading off insults like directly to camera. And then you get Sam Jackson saying, yo, hold up, time out. Time out. Y'all chill. You need to... I can't do it. You need to chill that shit out. That's the double truth, Roof.
You need to chill that shit out. That's the double truth, Roof. Motherfucker.
Yeah. Only Sam Jackson can do it convincingly.
He should have added an MF somewhere in there. Yeah, quite light on the motherfuckery from Samuel L. Jackson in this film, but still good. Good.
Rosie Perez as Tina is great, especially the dancing scene at the beginning. She fucking goes for it, man. Apparently, like they did that for like 2 straight days, and I think Spike Lee was like, I think Rosie wanted to kill him or something because he was going at it so much.
Oh, what at the beginning? Are you saying at the beginning? Yeah, that was nuts.
Yeah, right at the beginning.
God, that was nuts.
I think she got like tennis elbow as well after that because she did so much punching in it. She has like boxing gloves on at one point.
Yeah, that was amazing. Jesus, that was sexy. It's an entirely different experience actually to the rest of the film.
There's a great scene by Bill Nunn, who plays Radio Raheem. He riffs on the classic film Night of the Hunter.
I knew that. I watched that for film studies. I love that reference.
Yeah. Did you? Yeah, the whole love and hate thing. And obviously Robert Mitchum does that in that film, The Night of the Hunter, directed by Charles Lawton, the only film he directed because he was mainly an actor. But what's interesting is the fact that Robert Mitchum is the villain in that film. You know, Robert Mitchum gets consumed by hate in that film because he kind of tries to kill these kids. But with this, I guess, it's interesting. What do you think about that reference?
I never really thought I thought it was just kind of a fun nod to that film. But I've never tried to I didn't sort of think if it had like some sort of wider tie-in with the themes of both films.
Because obviously both characters get killed at the end.
But I suppose it's just, I don't know. I don't know if they're kind of that linked. The thematic thing for like the speech he's making about how you shouldn't hate, but you should love. Like, I think that's definitely pertinent for the movie that, everybody should just chill that shit out and love each other. But as to like the plots of each movie, I'm not sure. They are quite different. It might be coincidence. I think it might just be a fun little reference. But Rakim isn't really like a villain at all, and I suppose he gets martyred. I wouldn't say there's a direct true villain in the film. It's just like being intolerant is the villain.
Yeah, I really like John Turturro, who plays Pino, and Richard Edson, who plays Vito. There's a scene where Pino brings Vito into like the storeroom, and Pino is kind of like roughing up Vito, trying to beat him up a little bit, trying to warn him about Mookie, that he shouldn't trust him. And they're just like really intense in that scene. I thought it was just really great acting. It's literally right before like all the craziness happens.
Well, and it's also like
I thought those two
because he's also shoving back as well because he's been quite passive through most of the film, and Mookie's basically been saying to him, "Listen, if my brother ever talked to me like that." Well, he doesn't have a brother, but he said, if anybody talked to me like that, I'd bloody smack him. But that was quite intense. Yeah.
I think the only thing I would say negatively about the acting is that I'm not sure Spike Lee is amazing compared to everyone else, because obviously, I guess for budgetary constraints, he kind of had to act in it maybe, because obviously he was never going to get a massive budget for this type of film, because I think this was only his second film. He's not amazing, but you can look the other way, I guess, with that. So who's your favourite performance?
Who's my favorite performance? Bugging Out. Okay, Bugging Out. I like his the acting for that character. He's pretty out there, pretty passionate. I quite like his performance actually. I think I might that sounds a bit left field, but I think he's actually probably my favorite performance in that.
I think my favorite is Danny Elio, who plays Sal.
He can be quite sweet and a sort of grandfather sort of figure, and quite tough love. But then also when he gets pissed, he seems like,
he's great as well.
He's a force to be reckoned with his old baseball bat and like shouting threats out he's going to bust some motherfucker's head and stuff.
So what score would you give acting?
It's just some of the main characters I quite like. And then you have all of there's quite a lot of characters, to be honest with you. And I don't think most of them sort of hit that sort of level. They're okay. And then you've just got a few standout performances. I think you're right. I think Spike Lee, though the main character is a bit stiff, it's a bit wooden. So
your Get Out score was 9.1.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe I would give this, just for like the really good performances, maybe like 8.4.
I agree with you, really. I'm going to go with probably 8.2. Right, moving on to directing.
Yeah.
Any directional moments that you liked?
I'm a sucker for like scene transitions or camera pans, which I really like. And so a few ones that could have stood out to me in my memory. One where it's doing like a pan of like the roofs and stuff, and it pans down, and on the fire escape there's a bunch of guys hanging out. Like, is it Martin Lawrence? I forgot Martin Lawrence is in this film. Martin Lawrence, some of his buddies. Yeah. It's like, Jesus, it's hot. But I quite like that of just rooftops and boom, some characters right there. My other favorite shot comes like right towards the end. I do also like when the place burns down, and as you said, the other guy sticks Malcolm's picture on the wall. That was really good. It's generally quite a good shot, and stays on him for a couple seconds as he smiles. I mean, that was really good. What were some other ones that I quite liked? So towards the end, where it goes from the old man has finally got the respect of that older lady he's always been hitting for, and it's like in her house, and then they talk about what had happened, and like we've survived and all this stuff, and the camera comes from them. Basically, it's almost like they're theater actors talking to the audience or something, and the camera comes out of the window and it makes a turn, and there's Mookie like going to get his money. I quite like that. I thought, wow, that's a pretty damn good shot.
And there's a really interesting scene, all done in slow-mo close-ups of the three black guys sat in front of the red wall, and you have the white cop like driving past, and it's all done in slow-mo, just really like deeply staring at each other, and it was kind of like a great change in the tone of the film, that the boiling tension between the white characters and the black characters have just gone up a notch. Because I think that came after one of the Italian Americans gets soaked by the fire hydrant. Which, to be fair, was really funny. And just like, of course you're going to get wet. You should have just turned around.
He was like, I better not get any damn water in this damn car. And he was like, no.
Yeah, it was pretty stupid.
Turn it off. We'll turn it. You can carry on. And as he's going through, they just soak him. Comes out. He's absolutely pissed. He's like, who did it? I don't know. Do you know their name? I don't know. Joe Black.
I really like the shot of Mother Sister sitting in the window, like fanning herself. And it's kind of like the light is just really beautiful around her face, semi-black, backlit. And the camera like moves forward through the window, goes right past her. And Sam Jackson is just naming all these iconic black legends. I thought that was just a really nice shot from Spike. Yeah. Because I guess he would have had a lot of limitations, because I don't think this budget was big at all. So that shot was great.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah, there's a really great bit when Mookie is on one of his pizza runs and he goes back home to meet Tina, and he kisses her. And then you literally get shown it again.
Yeah.
He kisses her twice, but even it's like the same kiss.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I do. I thought there was like an editing mistake. I thought that was just kind of bizarre. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just as if Spike Lee was like, yeah, you wanted to see that again. I'm showing it again for you.
Wasn't it cool how I kissed this woman? You want to see it again?
You want to see it again. And there's a great kind of sex scene between Mookie and Tina. They're not doing it, but at the end, there's like an extreme like close-up shot of them, like, and it's all backlit of them kissing, and it's just so intimate. Do you remember that? It's like it's really tight on their lips. You know, you literally just see the white outline. You know, I thought it was really beautiful. So, do you have a favorite shot?
So yeah, my favorite shot, I think I just said, would be the end. It pans from Mayer and the old lady from their apartment window to Mookie. That's my favorite shot. I was going to say another shot I quite liked is where Rakim goes in for some pizza with his box on and is wanting some slices from Sal.
Right.
That thing I really liked, where it's like super close on Sal, who's like, turn that shit off. Like you could see he's getting and then to Rakim, he looks quite...
And it's like, it's tilted up, isn't it?
Up, like basically staring at his nostrils and stuff, just like that. And he's quite pissed. He's like, turn that fucking shit out, because he's like, 2 slices. Like, turn that off. That was really tense.
I think my favourite shot is definitely the window shot of Mother Sister as the camera goes through. I thought that was great. So, score for me, because of budgetary constraints, I don't think there's too much flair. But when Spike does use it, it's great. I think certainly the strongest aspects in this film is the screenplay and the acting for me. So I would probably go with, not by a long way, I think I'll go the same with acting, like an 8.2, I think.
Yeah, I think I'd go maybe the same, like maybe an 8.
Okay, let's do the scores then for Do the Right Thing. So Do the Right Thing gets 51.8. So Get Out wins this one with 55 points. To be fair, with... You know, these are subjective decisions on this, so, you know, they're both winners, really, but...
No, that's loser talk.
Yeah, I won. Get Out won, by the way.
I wasn't paying attention.
Black cinema is growing and growing, and there's so much great stuff with so many great directors out there at the moment. So, you know, with the likes of Steve McQueen, Barry Jenkins, and female directors as well, like Ava DuVernay, Amara Sante, there's so many great Black directors now, and it's just so great to see. So that's the end of this episode. Next week we'll be doing Ralph Fiennes films. Check that one out as well. It's goodbye to the Encyclopedia Man.
Thank you, Dictionary Man.
Dictionary? I am no dictionary. All right, bye-bye.
You are a bit of a dick.
What? That's it for this week's pod. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to find out more about the podcast or suggest future topics for us to discuss, you can find us on Instagram at Film vs. Film Podcast and on Twitter at FVF_podcast. See you on the next one. Pod signing off.